Hello, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the JMAC podcast. I'm John McMahon, and of course, this podcast is kindly brought to you by orgoretro.com. Use my code JMAC podcast to get 15% off on their website. We are back, the first podcast since the All Ireland final in 2025. We are back with a bang, and I am joined today by John Kelly. And of course, John Kelly is the author and creator of the book, The GAA Covered, The History of the GAA in Match Programmes. So really looking forward to chatting to John today. How are you keeping, John?
Good, John. Thanks a million for asking me on. Delighted to be with you this evening.
No worries at all. It's a month till St. Stephen's Day. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, I am. Yeah, yeah. Look, it's at this time of year is always when the dark evenings comes in and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
Absolutely. It will not be long. The big red man will be long
yeah,
gone at this stage. So really looking forward to it this year. And I suppose, obviously, we're both working in school. So it's probably the time off we're most looking forward to.
absolutely. Yeah, you can't beat those couple of weeks off around the Christmas. Get out and get a bit of fresh air into the lungs and get away from the classroom anyway, John. You know yourself.
Oh, you could say that. You could sing that song, John. You could sing that song. Well, it's great to have you on board tonight. Of course, we're here to talk about your brand new book, of course, available in all good books, bookstores. The GA covered, of course. I'll put up the camera. The GA covered by John Kelly. And the backstory of the book is whether it's tightly rolled up between two nervous wriggling hands, proudly sticking out from quick stepping back pocket, or carefully brought home to be kept for prosperity. The GA, the match day program, is part of the very fabric of the GA. The GA covered is a stunning visual compendium of over 100 years of GA programs, covers from 1913 to the present day, and an invaluable collection of the local social and sports history. So an amazing book, an amazing publication, obviously here by John, and it makes for great reading and obviously an ideal Christmas present for all GA fans. I'd be thinking, John, definitely this Christmas. So I suppose what got you writing this one?
Yeah, I suppose a couple of things, John. I had been collecting GA programs ever since I was a kid. Grew up in a very traditional GA household, and was brought to a lot of matches by my parents when I was a youngster. And it always seemed to be that I ended up with the program coming home. And I suppose growing up in the 70s, there wasn't much in the line of internet or magazines or stuff like that. So the program was kind of served as my magazine. There was pictures of the players. There was a little few stats and articles, pen pictures, stuff like that. So I kind of just being so interested in the GA was just a great way of reading about the players, looking at the players, stuff like that. So I ended up with the programs, and I suppose after whatever 30 or 40 years, I had a sizable collection of my own built up, and what I decided to do then was fill in the gaps in the collection. Obviously, I had matches I'd been at. I go to a lot of matches, and then try to fill in the gaps, working back through the years. And as a collector, then you realize that when you go back far enough, the programs become more rare, difficult to get. Um, you don't know if some of them still exist or even if they were ever printed. So the idea behind the book, John, was to discover if you could put together a full set of All Ireland final programs, what would they look like? When did they begin? What's missing? What's still there? And I threw in the provincial finals just to kind of flesh it out a little bit. Just when we were talking previously there, I did mention a lovely book that as a follower of Liverpool Football Club as well, I came across a beautiful book a couple of years ago by a guy who collects Liverpool programs. And I flicking through that book, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be lovely if somebody did a GAA version of this book? So it's kind of those two inspirations were really what drove me on to do it. Putting together a full collection of All Ireland programs, and then just to see it put into book form for collectors or for people that were just interested in it.
Absolutely, John. And obviously, we have some very historic pictures at the front. With we have the likes of we've the All Ireland final in 1975. We have Kerry and Roscommon, and at the very front, and we have Armagh, and once again, Kerry. Like so, obviously, Kerry. It's a fair it's a
Yeah,
fair testament about how good they were over the years, and obviously the rich tradition that Kerry have, and like collecting them All Ireland final programs, and obviously people, go along to the games. And know the programs change so vastly over the years, and the information you get them. And I think I love seeing spectators, obviously before games, getting information. Obviously, match commentators and people doing covering the games. It's obviously great to get such great insight in the programs, and I think they're obviously a very important part of the match day tradition. But like compiling everything and putting everything together, I suppose it probably was a lot of work.
Yeah, there was a good bit of work in it, John. As like I had a certain amount of them back to the 1970s. The programs kind of come in three stages. Back to the 1970s, we regard them as the modern programs. The advent of the souvenir program. They're quite easy to get. If you started off collecting programs tomorrow, you'd quite easily work your way back to about 1970. From 1970 to 1945, the end of the emergency or the Second World War gets a little bit more difficult, and anything pre the Second World War is extremely difficult to find and can be a little bit expensive as well. But I suppose that's the way that the programs present themselves at the moment. But it's funny you'd mentioned, going through the cover there. There's a great lot of social history involved in it as well, John, because you mentioned, Kerry featured prominently in it. You go back, you can trace the evolution of the teams through the GAA, through the programs. Like, Kerry will feature strongly at certain points. Cavan, your own county, will feature very strongly at other points in it. The Dubs obviously will feature strongly, and then you go into hurling. Obviously, at various times when Kilkenny are strong, Tipperary are strong, Cork are strong. But the thrill of it is the odd year where somebody pops out of the ether and wins a provincial final or gets to an All Ireland final. Thinking of the likes of Leitrim or the Clare team in the 90s that hadn't been there since the 1970s or since back in the 1920s. So there's great history involved in it. You can look back at the players, you can look back at the match officials. There's the pen pictures, all the statistics that come along that are part of the modern day program that they give a great sense of history to the thing. And I think that's one of the great things about the book is that you can open it at any year. Just pick a year and open it and see
Mm.
what teams were at the top of the game that particular year.
Yeah, and obviously my vintage, like I'm obviously a nineties child, but even like looking back and say like the early noughties, and obviously that's probably when I was getting really into the GA, probably from I'd say maybe '06 onwards, potentially when I was getting really involved. And even I was talking to you off air about the All Ireland final in '06, and obviously Kerry against Mayo, and we keep talking about how steeped in history Kerry are in the last couple of years, and obviously their dominance in football. But like that, obviously All Ireland final, obviously Kerry won it very well, and then you had to wait. Once again, it was Kerry and Tyrone, and then one of my personal favourites had to be, and then I think it was the 5 year anniversary there a couple of days ago. Obviously with Cavan's victory in the COVID Cup and having even the program from that Ulster
Yeah.
final, obviously Groba Kiernan at the very front page of it. So obviously it brings back so many good memories, and it does go to show, as aforementioned, how important it is to get programs from these various games.
Yeah, it's true, very true what you're saying, John. These the images on the front of the programs can be very evocative and can bring a lot of that stuff back to you that you may have forgotten about. They instantly put the memory of the game back in your head. And it's funny that you mentioned the Cavan win in 2020, I'm sure it was, which was the COVID year, as far as I can remember. And the programs were hugely difficult to get at that time because obviously there was nobody at the matches. The need to print them wasn't there. A lot of county boards switched over to on digital programs or online programs, and it's that year in particular. I've managed to put a full collection of the whole championship of that year together, which is kind of it's a lovely little collection in itself. But to see the likes, to see what can happen when they went back to the open draw, you got Tipperary, you got Cavan. You got it back. I think they were the same finals as 1920 or something like that. It was 100, literally 100 years previously. You had the exact same semi-finals in the football competition again. So like there's a sense there of history repeating itself. And for Cavan people at the time, it was fantastic to be Ulster champions again. And to have the program from that year is brilliant.
Mm. Absolutely. And like we were faced so many kind of memorable finals like throughout the years and throughout the ages. And obviously we always remember them great Offaly teams, the great Dublin teams, and obviously the great Kerry teams and everything that goes kind of with that. I suppose what would be your kind of like growing up watching football, John? Like what would be your big kind of standout memories for you?
Yeah, again. I I grew, as I said before, I grew up in the 70s, John, and you know, it's the media landscape was very different then to what it is now. I think back in the 70s we got the two All Ireland semi-finals, or the four All Ireland semi-finals and the two All Ireland finals. They were the only programs that were shown on television. I think there was a kind of a something similar to the Sunday game with Mick Dunn doing it maybe, but in general we didn't get to see that many matches. There was far fewer matches, of course, because all competitions back then were nearly knockout. So my big memory of the 70s is sitting down on the Sundays in September to watch the semi-finals with the family around the telly, and invariably in football it was Dublin and Kerry, which were fantastic matches to watch. My first All Ireland being brought to was the 1979 All Ireland, which was Dublin and Kerry as well, and
Mm,
you're lifted over the turnstile, and
mm,
Dad gave the program to me, and I still have the program today, which is
mm.
I think it's kind of that maybe that's what started off the attachment to the GA, or is witnessing one of those games in the flesh, and then having the memory of the program. That was how I was going to remember the match. The match has kind of faded from my memory unless you watch it back on YouTube or something now. But I still have the program, so I can always look back and see who was playing. And I was lucky enough. The next All Ireland final then was the 1982 All Ireland final, where Seamus Darby scored a late goal to beat Kerry, and that was a fantastic another fantastic one to be at. So the memories were built early in my life, and I kept them alive through having the programs. That's how I kind of manage it.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I think like it is so fine. A lot of people maybe kind of have maybe the way the current generation is gone. Like you get like team sheets on the likes of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That is probably the way it's going on. But I think maybe the proper GA fans and obviously the diehard supporters obviously love picking up the program and read.
Yeah.
As I said, look through match statistics, look through data, look through who maybe he's the top scorer. Just seeing obviously various bits of information, but. Do you think the GA program at this current minute in time is as popular as it was maybe years ago, or do you think it's still very popular?
That's a very good question, John. And I said it, I sound like an old lad saying it, like the younger generation, probably more attached to their phones than the likes of myself. And I think it generally when the collectors group that we have, or the collectors community that we have, they're generally lads that are my vintage, 50 or over. And so I'd say, with digital content and online content and social media, I think it's difficult to see where the program goes. As you said, the diehards, we love the programs. We love going to the matches. The first thing you do when you get inside the gate is to get the program and have a flick through it, look what the team is, and invariably the team will have been announced to the media on a Thursday night, and it'll be available on X or Twitter or Facebook, whatever it is, whatever social media the team is using. But so people will already be aware of the team. But to me, it's an essential part of the match day experience. Getting the program and looking at the pen pictures, looking at the stats, looking at the results that were already of the competition that were already played that year, looking at the all-time leaderboards of who won the Sam Maguire, who won the Lee McCarthy, this sort of stuff. I'd flick through that for an hour before any match.
Mm,
But I definitely think COVID was a definite a bit of a game changer, really, because as I said earlier, a lot of the content went digital, went online. I know
mm,
several county boards still produce digital content. There's a cost involved for county boards and for the GA in general for the production of these programs, which you'll hear a lot of county board treasurers grumbling about the cost of programs, and certain, it's hard to gauge. You print a certain amount of programs, you get a wet day, you get a smaller crowd, and you have a lot of programs left over, and you get a sunny day, a bigger crowd turns up, and you haven't enough, and people are giving out. So it's very hard to get it right. But
mm.
yeah, I would fear that in the coming years, it won't happen straight away, but in the coming years they may become kind of a thing of the past. If you one of the ways of engaging is looking at the tickets, John. If
Yeah.
like myself, he collects programs. There's a few lads would collect tickets from the All Irelands, and I used to know any match I went to, I kept a ticket from it as well. And the tickets are gone now. The tickets are on your phone and they disappear. And you open up the ticket for the All Ireland final now, and you're looking at a barcode. So
Mm.
things change, things move on. But I'd be hoping that the program would stay. But I'm looking over across the pond into England, and there's several of the, not the Premier League teams, but the division, whatever, first division, whatever they call it now, the championship. They've already gone to fully digital content. They don't produce programs anymore, which is, if that's a sign of things to come, well, it's you'd be worried.
Yeah, yeah. No, interesting times. And obviously my brother was at the Ireland and South Africa game there in the Aviva on Saturday night, and he said like the program was €10. Like, and like, is it maybe for fans, particularly John, like, is it maybe getting to maybe the expense? Obviously you talk about, your match tickets, maybe your food, your couple of pints there, bringing a couple of kids, and
Yeah.
maybe sometimes it's a bit of an expense for people potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I trace in the book, John, is the cost, or the way the program has evolved. And one of the things about that is the cost of it. And I think in 2019 we had the biggest ever program. It was about 120 pages for the All Ireland finals, and it was €7. And the cost of the match day program at the minute is €8. So it couldn't the GAA programs compare favorably to the international soccer, international rugby matches are tenner each. The
Mm,
FA Cup final in England this year was 10 sterling as well. So
mm,
€8 but as you say, it puts, when you're paying €100 for an All Ireland final ticket and you want to get a program, then it's €108 or whatever. And in the last couple of years, the printers of the GA, the All Ireland final programs, DBA, they print the programs on behalf of the GA, but they've produced three different programs for the All Ireland finals. They've produced a kind of a generic version, and then they've produced one for each of the competing counties. So, for example, in the All Ireland final, in the hurling final this year, you would have had and they're all the same program, by the way, just with different covers on them. You had
mm.
a Tipperary version, a Cork version, and then you had the ordinary version.
Yeah, they've done
So
that
if
last
you
year too
so
for Armagh Galway.
exactly, yeah, exactly. It's the second year they've done it. So if you go to, if like me, you're collecting the All Ireland finals, rather than €16, you're paying €48 for your three programs. Which as
If you're very, very, very sentimental.
yeah, 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 and of course, there's nothing worse as well if you're an Armagh supporter going to the match and you end up with the Galway program. Or
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
look,
because if memory serves, I think they ran out of, maybe it was Armagh programs. I think, and like all the difference is Kieran McGeeney, Joe Kernan on the front. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't seismic, but like that would have been. I think I managed to get all three in the end. Like, but it does go to show there would be a lot of fans annoyed about that too.
yeah, exactly. And I think what they did was that they only sold the county cover ones in Croke Park on the day. So, if you want to get an All Ireland final program now, it's very easy to do it. You just go onto the DBA website, or you can pick
Mm.
them up on eBay afterwards, very, very handily enough as well. But the those ones in particular were sold only on the day of the match in the ground, which is the way it always used to be. But like that, they sold out quickly and they're gone, and they're very hard to get it. And if you really want one, then it's difficult, for supporters. But I think this year they actually sent some around to local shops in the participating counties to give people a chance to get them if they hadn't got them.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. That's what it's
but,
all about. No, that
but
is
it
what
is
it's all about. Yeah.
it's an added expense. If you're collecting them, you don't want to be horsing up €24 for three programs on the day of the All Ireland final.
No, because it was in the Aviva. I got to witness the Ireland Portugal game there last Thursday, and obviously Cristiano Ronaldo getting sent off, and
Oh
the
yeah,
mates are laughing after. Where's all the programs? And there was one lying down beside us as a spectator, must have left it behind him, and I just nipped it, and all the
yeah,
lads nearly had a conniption. So that was
yeah.
obviously a very memorable night. And I see obviously Ronaldo's got off, so he's going to play in the first round of the World Cup. So amazing how all these things work out, John.
Yeah, I just flabbergasted when I saw it, but I'm not surprised. But as you say with yourself, nipping one off the ground, I've done that before, where
I've done it a few times.
you've got late to a match and you don't get a program, and you're looking around furiously at the end of the game, because I reckon there's three types of people who go to the matches. There's the people
Just
no interest
genuinely
in
pay, yeah.
no interest in the program. They won't care. They don't want to. They don't. All they want to do is see the match. They're no interest in the program. Then you have the people that'll buy it, and they'll get rid of it even before the match. They won't or they'll throw it out on the way out, or it'll be in the boot of the car for a couple of weeks and then gone. Or then there's the likes of myself that'll have it forever. You know what I mean? So you'll always find coming out of a match, you'll always find one that's some lad is left behind or thrown away. That's if you don't manage to get it at the start of the game, you'll always pick one up somewhere.
Oh no, 100%. As you say, eBay, there's loads of these websites you could pick them up on. And I suppose, obviously, the book itself, John, and obviously, there's been so many years with the GA at this stage, and we're blessed and we're besotted by the GA at the very best of times. But what was probably maybe your top, maybe five standout years for you, and what was your, I suppose, most memorable programs in the book?
Yeah, the standout years. That's interesting. Definitely the standout years were when I went back to get back to the very early years, John, because they were very difficult to find. So maybe just to tell you a little bit about how it started first. I'll come back to the standout years just in a little bit, but the the programs aren't in any one particular place. They're Crow Park have a certain archive. There's some up in the Cardinal O'Fee Library in Armagh have a great collection of the Ulster ones actually. And then you're looking at private collections, so they're very hard to pin down. So um, as I said earlier, the ones pre the war are very, very difficult to get, and it was into the private collections when I got them. So when you're talking about my favorite years, they're definitely the ones that are rarely seen. That like the 1913 finals, the first two finals that were played in the GAA owned Crow Park, if you want, 1913. To have them in my hand was absolutely fantastic. Like, to
Mm.
feel those programs that were over.
How did you get them, John? How did you get them particular programs?
I got one in Crow Park and another in just in a private collection.
Okay, okay.
Gave it to me, and literally what I used to do, John, was I used to visit the collectors, and I take a scan, I turn it, rock up with my laptop and scanner. They'd hand the program to me. I'd take a scan of it and hand it straight back to them, so that there was never any, they'd never in doubt where the program.
Yeah, people can be very, what's the word? They could be very precious of the programs too.
Yeah, very sensitive about them. That and especially some of the older ones because they're quite expensive now,
Mm,
John. And they people were very good to me, let me have them, but at the same time, I was very conscious that they were handling, as you say, stuff that was of huge sentimental value. That people had gone to a lot of effort to collect, and you just want to make sure that you gave it back to them the way you got it, and but those the 1913 finals, that was a huge year because that was the starting point of the All Ireland final programs. And then you've other years like another standout was the 1939 and the Thunder and Lightning final between Cork and Kilkenny.
yeah.
Happened on the outbreak of the Second World War, and terrible, atrocious conditions for weather conditions in the second half of that match. And then, like, my own favorite, you're probably going to love this one, but my own favorite is the 1947 final, the football final, Cavan and Kerry.
Yeah.
Um,
That'd be some program to have. Jeez,
yeah,
yeah.
I was lucky enough. I got it.
Where did you get that one, John?
I got it on eBay about 10 years ago, John. And
Dare I ask how much?
uh, it wasn't quite €1,000. I'll put it like that.
Oh God, right, okay, okay.
Um, it, no,
Yeah,
it was.
I yeah, I've Mick I used to love my autographs when I was a bit younger as well. I've Mick Higgins autograph.
Go away, have you? Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was at there's a hotel in Cavan in here called the Hotel Kilmore, and I think Mick Higgins was either presenting medals or he was like a special guest. And like in fairness, he was like
yeah,
he was just nearly about to sign about able to sign the page, but
yeah,
it's like
yeah. That's
that's
fantastic.
a precious one to have. Yeah,
It's a lovely signature to have. But no, the program came up on eBay and I jumped at it straight away. I had a few quid put by, and I'd be kind of trading in the programs as well. You'd sell on a few, and I had a little kind of a war chest, if it ever. You see, it comes up so rarely for sale, John. It was the chance to buy it, so I knew it wouldn't last. It wouldn't be there long, so I jumped in and bought it straight away. And it's just an amazing program. It's completely different to the other 1940s programs. If you flick through the book, you'll see the 1940s programs are kind of orangey, reddy colored program with Michael Cusick on the front of it. I think there's one on the cover of the book there. You can see it just above the ERE in the cover today. You can see one just beside the Kerry
yeah.
program there. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
just underneath. Yeah, yeah, just to
yeah,
the
yeah,
just yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you can see the other 1940 program there. And the the Cavan the one from the Polo Grounds obviously was printed in New York, and was at the match because you could only buy them at the match, and then made its way back home to across the Atlantic, and 80 years later it turns up in my house, so that's it's just it's and there's a wonderful smell of it. It just smells old.
Fresh.
I don't know what you want to say, but it's very evocative, and my father was a huge fan of that Cavan team. He was, you listen to the old boys talking, and and it was nice for him just to see it as well, But it's
Mhm.
lovely pictures of
That's
the players in
yeah,
it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, beautiful
yeah,
program. It's kind of embossed on the cover as well. It's not a smooth cover. It's a lovely kind of a
yeah,
cover on it, but it's a
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful program, and a great memory for Cavan people, of course.
Yeah. God, yeah, no, that'd be some program that, like, because I know there is a lot of, like, there the Cavan, we are a football fanatical county, like, so there would be a lot of
Yeah,
people that would be that program would be very sought after, like, and we do look at 1997 a lot, even that Ulster title win. We probably do
yeah,
look in the past, and obviously we have our 5 All Irelands, and it probably been another while till we might win another All Ireland. So I think you have to
yeah,
treasure all this, but yeah, that 1947 program definitely would be some standout, and yeah, like it's unbelievable how much kind of programs have kind of changed and developed. Like I found
yeah,
even like say that I think it was 2006, probably up until maybe '07, they were just maybe like, yeah, tabloid kind of
yeah,
sizes
yeah.
nearly. Like I found even the '06 great reading, '05, '04. It's unbelievable, John, how much they've kind of changed in recent years, and they're maybe condensed in size and maybe more information in them now, but it's incredible how much they have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned those the larger style ones that were came in the I think in the middle of the 1990s up to the middle of the 2000s. They were A4 size, very glossy, and uh, some of the collectors didn't really like them a lot. I don't mind them. I think they're still lovely programs. But you're right. The programs have evolved an awful lot from the first couple of ones that came out in 1913. John, would have been very small programs, booklets, little booklets, and they were designed to fit inside the inside pocket of a man's overcoat. So they were way smaller than what we were used to now. And a couple of the years after that as well, they became even smaller. There was the 1921 is actually, nearly the size of a playing card, something like
Mm.
that, very small. And they disappeared then for about 10 years during the revolutionary era. 1916, there was no All Ireland programs. But when they came back in the 20s, they were single page fold over sheets. What you probably might get at a club match nowadays, a folded over A4 sheet, and continued like that into the 1930s. As I said, then the 1940s, then they put a bit of color on the cover of them, and they started to introduce black and white photographs into them, returned to the booklets rather than the folded over pages. And then I suppose then, you have advancements in technology, in printing technology, and photographic technology. People are keeping stats a bit better, and so they gradually start to improve. The big improvement came really in the 1960s. Lovely programs in the 1960s for the All Ireland finals. A guy called Brendan McLua, who was a Clare man. He was appointed to a full-time position in Croke Park, helping the secretary at the time, and he had a huge interest in the programs. So kind of the birth of the modern program for me is really 1964, 65, 66, 67. These
Mm.
beautiful programs that they brought out in Croke Park with, they've added a lovely color to the photographs on the front of the programs, and inside there's more pages. They're more interesting to read. There's a little bit more reading in them. And after, kind of in the 1970s, then that was reflected in the provincial final programs. Jack Mann, the great Galway footballer, was involved in the public relation end of things in Connacht, and a guy called Paddy Flanagan in Leinster. They kind of brought the program forward in the 70s. Ulster came a little bit after that. If you flick through the book, you'll wonder, have I just photocopied the same Ulster final program for about 20 years there, from about
Yeah,
1960
we
up.
did. Yeah, Ulster didn't really change much at
Yeah,
all.
the
Yeah,
cover is very much the same, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's funny now because the program I look forward to most every year is actually the Ulster final program.
It is good, yeah.
Yeah, they're a great production. A lot of pages, very interesting reading material in it. Great, just great content in the
Mm,
Ulster one. And for us down here, they're very difficult to get. And in fairness to the Ulster Council in the last couple of years, they've made them available to buy online,
on the
which is great.
website, yeah,
Yeah,
which is very good because it's very
yeah,
like I've even found out if I didn't get a program on a particular match day, or if I even wanted just a program for a particular game, or I've often bought all around final programs that even go to the game just to obviously have. It's great. It is. They are possible to buy online.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, if you go back through the years, as I said earlier on, John, the programs were only available at the matches, and that's why they're probably so scarce now. Especially the earlier ones, that you could only buy them, between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the day of the All Ireland final in Croke Park. So if you wanted to get your hands on one, you were relying on somebody that was at the match to bring you home one. Nowadays,
Yeah,
obviously, with eBay, with auction sites, with going direct to the printers or the publishers, you can always get the modern day programs. Um, I would say that has probably decreased the value of them, the monetary value of them, in comparison to the older programs, obviously, because you can buy a program that was never anywhere near Crow Park or Clonus or wherever, but that won't matter to collectors or to people that want the program for a particular reason. Somebody like yourself that might want it for stats or for information purposes or whatever. It's great to be able to get your hands on the program. But as I said, it does make the previous ones or the older ones that much more scarce because
yeah.
if you look back, I think it's the 1973 hurling final, or even the year Carlow won the Leinster final in 1944 was absolutely miserable day, and people will use programs as umbrellas
I've seen it. Yeah, I think Cavan were playing Tyrone down in Clonus. I think it was at 16, and there's a very good picture of the. I think at this it's just using it. If someone was beating up the stones and
yes,
just
yeah,
using it as cover for their head to
yeah, yeah.
prevent any sunburn.
Yeah,
Yeah,
use them as caps. They'll use them to swat away flies.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you look
yeah.
at Kieran McGeeney or Mick O'Dwyer had them balled up like a baton in their hands, ready to. I don't know what they were going to do, beat away opposition, that's whatever. But they're,
Yeah,
they've been used for so many things down through the years. Apart from just
yeah. And
informing the
some,
team.
but some managers do like I even seen like any of the games do be at like some managers do like having them rolled in a bit of a ball and maybe going through them during games. And I even see club championship games here, Gavin. Obviously, just like in club championship games here, it's literally just a sheet, and obviously
Yeah.
obviously on county final day and maybe semi-finals the programs are properly produced. But some managers do like just having a little bit of like it is great for information and then maybe last minute details about maybe opposition teams as well.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if you're the opposition manager, first of all, you open it onto the middle page, and your own team is there first of all. So if you're looking at, what subs or what changes you want to make, but obviously then you have all the information on the other team, just around the corner from you as well. Like, so they're the primary sort, like, the reason the programs were made in the first place was to give information about the teams. And there you have it at your hand. So, like, I mean, it's no wonder, like, Mick O'Dwyer, Kieran McGeeney, these guys bring the program out with them. It's obviously they'll be very much aware of who they have on the sideline or who's on the pitch in front of them. But sometimes you can throw your eye down at the program. It gives you a bit of information that you need very quickly.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, John, absolutely, and I suppose, yeah, like how many years you covered it for, and obviously all so many memorable finals, and obviously, like you're probably seeing Kerry's name kind of pop up so much, and it really does go to show the dominance Kerry have had in Gaelic games and how powerful they've been throughout the years, John.
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the questions I get frequently asked about it. Is every county covered in the book? And I said, well, look, the problem is when you go to All Ireland finals or provincial finals, it's going to be very much success dependent. So the more successful teams will feature more strongly in the book. And Kerry, obviously, I think they've had two, if not three, four in a row. I'm not sure anyway, but the two, certainly two. But you go back through the years, they've been very strong from the beginning of the association. You go back the 1924 final there, the covers in it. Kerry beat Dublin 4 points to 3 or something in it, like, so that's, right from the outset you have there. But the outset of that, or the opposite of that as well, like, you had the Wexford team that feature on the football team that feature on the first two All-Ireland programs in it, in the first three programs in the book. Wexford had a great football team at the very early years, the 1910s, if you want to say it. They won a four in a row back then as well. And it kind of goes to show that, some teams have maintained a kind of a dominance or a tradition like Kerry, whereas other teams kind of have drifted in and out and have been strong at different periods. Wexford, for example, as I said, had a good team then. They also had a pretty good team in the 1990s, early 2000s as well. They came back, were in several Leinster finals. At various stages, you'll see Meath had a good team, Louth had a good team. I suppose we're referring mostly to football at this stage, but the hurling seems to be, less of a variety of winners, I suppose, if you want to say. You say the very dominant Kilkenny, Cork, Tipperary, those three, Galway to a certain extent, but there's a wider spread in the football. But as you say, you'll keep coming back to your Kerrys, to your Dublins. But then again, you can see a turn since 2000. The Ulster teams have become a lot more prominent on All Ireland final day.
No, absolutely, John. And obviously with the phone calls and getting this book over the line and pictures and meeting people and like a lot of time those go into it. And I suppose to get the perfect book, to get the selling product, John, like a lot of work does go into it.
Yeah, I as I said, I was able to get back to 1970 very quickly, but then the search began, John, for
Yeah,
the programs prior to that. And as as I kind of just said a little bit earlier as well, if all of these programs were contained in a single archive, this book would have been done years ago, I reckon. But it being in the collectors community, I had access to some of the people. Now, some of the fellas, I didn't know them at all, and I ended up just cold calling them and just introducing myself, saying, "Look, I'm trying to put it together a book about the All Ireland final programs. Can you help me out?" And lads were very good, and
yeah, yeah,
I was in Mayo, I was in Wexford, I was in Armagh, I was in Kerry, it was
yeah,
Tipperary, it was in Kildare. It was all around the country. It's amazing how many of the programs have been kept. And I suppose that's the work that went into it was very much enjoyable, because you were getting to was sitting in the car, putting on a podcast, landing over to Mayo and having a chat with a guy about the programs and how he got them
yeah,
and where he got them and how long he's had them for. And
yeah.
but
Like I know, sorry to put it, like I know we give out about the GA a lot, and we talk about bits and bobs and like the running of the GA, but it is very powerful, John. It is like even getting to meet people through it, and obviously, without talking to people and ringing people and texting people, you probably this book wouldn't be possible. So it does go to show we do have a very powerful association when we do cut it down.
Yeah, it's huge. It's inestimable, really, the work that the GA have done throughout the country in terms of making connections like that. That I could go to Wexford and meet a man that had the same interest as me and sit down and talk to him, having never met the man before in my life, and
Mm.
sit down and talk to him for 3 or 4 hours about GA programs. Then I do the same over in Mayo, or I do the same in Tipperary. It's the connections that can be made, because we're all watching the matches. The matches are on television now. You can sit down and watch them. So when you go down to talk to the guy, you have a common bond straight away, and it's amazing the bond that is created within the GA. And that these things provide fodder for discussion or a common interest, or of course arguments. You get different viewpoints on things. And we live next door to Kilkenny, and
Mm.
I'm Carloman here, obviously, but living next door to Kilkenny. And the Kilkenny lads, they're a fantastic hurling team. But I always ask them, "Where's the football team?" Where no programs from your football team, lads.
Oh
But
yeah.
and that's it's all good natured banter. Like but it's the great it's the connection that's there within the GA from
Magic, magic.
and it's to be got in so many different ways, John. Like this book is basically about collecting little booklets that were at matches. There's the matches themselves. There's lads that are involved in the GA in so many different ways, be it
Mm.
administration, coaching, playing, producing programs. It gives a great sense of, I suppose, what they say in the adverts. There's a place for everybody in it. There's a great sense of belonging in it.
Yeah, because I do tend, yeah, I know obviously like the day-to-day stuff, and we do kind of like to kind of give out a bit bits and bobs, and we do give out a bit the GA and the general running, and we could give out a bit this X words out, but we do have a beautiful organization. Like we do probably maybe tend to forget that at times, like, and obviously the connections and people you can meet along the way, those make it very magical, without a shadow of a doubt. And like there is lots of books out coming towards this Christmas, John. I think as Mark O'Shea has a book out as well, and it's kind of
Yeah.
it is that time of year, John, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's gas that you mentioned. I'm actually quite lucky. I'm myself and Mark being nominated for Books of the Year award tomorrow night
Brilliant,
up
yeah.
in the National Book of the Year awards. And straight away, you have a connection. I know I'll have read his book, he'll have read my book, and we'll have a bit to chat about, and plenty to chat about with Kerry. But again, going back to the connections. One of the great things I think about the book, uh, John, is that you can go back through the years to make these connections. You can look back and for somebody older, they can pick out the guys that you pick up the 1956 All Ireland hurling final program and you see Christy Ring and Nicky Rackert's name beside each other, or you go back to 47 and you see Mick Higgins or John Joe's name in the book. It's amazing, like the stuff that the connections that were there before us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a great kind of a social history in these things. You see the club's names, and some of the stuff that popped up was amazing. Like stuff I hadn't realized. I know, and it's particularly, again, Cavan features in it. The Maguires in 1952, I think it was. That had the family had players. Some of them were playing for Cavan and another lad playing for Meath, playing
Mm,
against each other in an All Ireland final. So this is the mad stuff that crops up that the GA throws at you, because it's very, very difficult to get a sport where two players are playing against each other, both
mm,
that grew up together in the same house. So it's
mm.
it's amazing, that sort of thing. That's the sort of stuff I love, looking back through the programs. And people,
Yeah, but
my old French teacher contacted me. I think he played for Cavan, or sorry, he didn't play for Cavan. His grandfather played for Cavan back in
yeah,
the 1930s. And another connection there straight away that I had no idea. I would never have put him as a GAA man, but there you are. He scored a goal in the 1933 final, Vincent McGovern or something. It's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah. No, like it's funny if I can try maybe find the 2020 Ulster Final program, but like that program itself will be even one to tell the grandkids about it, or even the wee kids when they get that bit older. Like there's so many even stories from that year, how
Yeah,
tough a year was for everyone, and obviously I've Ray Gallagher and Mickey Graham said after the game that like it was such a tough time for people. Obviously, the COVID situation, everyone was locked away, couldn't go to the game. So I think even that, I'd say I aforementioned that program a couple of minutes ago. That'll be a very, very pivotal bit of
yeah.
a program to have. Like, but it just provides great memories. It provides obviously great times and good times, bad times, whatever way the kind of country was at that particular moment in time, John.
Yeah, exactly. Hugely so, John, because I vividly remember watching that Ulster final, sitting here, because we around that time, people weren't moving out. There was restrictions on movement. There was nobody at matches. So whenever there was when the championship eventually got going towards the end of the year in 2020, we watched every match, because God, it was a relief to the situation that was on in the country at the time. And it was all the more exciting, John, because the likes of Cavan and Tipperary won, made it, brought a bit more excitement into the thing. And as you say, give relief to people. It was a distraction, took their minds away from the worldwide situation, never mind the nationwide situation. But and it must have lifted, like, the counties that won, the Cavan people, Tipperary people, Dublin people, Mayo people, whatever. It must have given a huge lift to them to see, to see the counties doing so well at that stage. And that's why the program is kind of important still. It cabin people will remember it, but it's still a very if you get your hands on the program, still a very evocative document to have. It'll remind people that we weren't out at those times. We were locked up at home. We could only go 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, whatever it was from the house. The pubs were shut, the schools were shut. You had to queue to go into supermarkets, this sort of stuff. And yet there were our men out in the field winning the Anglo Cell Cup. It's
Mm.
fantastic.
Mm. Absolutely. And obviously doing the program, and obviously you're a Carlow man yourself, and like producing the book, where you kind of like were you mad to get much as much Carlow bits and bobs in as possible, because also we see Carlow maybe in the last couple of years, and they're in the Leinster Championship, the Leinster Football Championship, John, and obviously we see how difficult and tricky that has been for
Yeah,
counties in that, and obviously
yeah.
here's hoping for Carlow now in the future to keep excelling themselves. But was it maybe tough for you at times that Carlow didn't feature maybe as much as you
Yeah,
wanted?
yeah, and I'll tell you what made it even tougher, John, was the fact that as I said, we're second smallest county in Ireland. We find it difficult to compete. A lot of the time, a lot of great work goes in Carlow into putting out teams in both hurling and football, but we success has rarely come our way. I put it like that. But in the 1940s, we had a really good team. We had
Mm.
a fantastic team. Contested three Leinster finals in the 40s, winning in 1944. And would you believe it that there isn't a program for any of them? It's absolutely, it was soul destroying. Because
Yeah, I'd say that was probably tough in terms of yeah,
yeah, I really, as a collector of programs, I would have had my eye out for them prior to the book. But
yeah.
I really hope that in the course of doing the book, that they would have turned up the Leinster final programs in the early 40s, but they didn't. 1941, we got to the Leinster final. It was foot and mouth year, and believe it or not, the Leinster final I think was played after the All Ireland final that year.
Okay.
And in 1944, when we won it, the final was played in a tie. Now, most of the Leinster final programs or Leinster finals at that time were played in either Portlaoise or Croke Park, and when they're played there doesn't seem to be a problem with a program. But when it was played in a tie, um, there doesn't seem to have been a program. And but apart from there not even being a program when we won in '94, they didn't even get presented with the cup, and there wasn't a team photograph taken. So there's very
No
little. There's
way.
very little. But
Yeah.
it, it, we every county is covered in the book in some shape or form. And we got back, I think, in 2006, 2007, we both our minor teams contested Leinster finals, hurling and football in 2006 and 2007. So we made it in some small way into the book. But yeah,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, some counties will feature a lot more prominently than others, but that's just the nature of the sport. Some counties are more successful than others.
Absolutely. And I suppose, John, just kind of get your brief thoughts on kind of Carlow football at the minute. And obviously, Joe Murphy is in the hot seat at the minute. And I suppose what would be maybe the hopes and aspirations for Carlow going forward at the minute?
Yeah, I suppose it's great to have Joe back. Joe has proved himself very much as a brilliant club manager, both within Carlow and outside Carlow at Naas. I played with Joe and I played against him, and what I'd say about Joe, Joe is highly organised. His heart is in Carlow, and he will absolutely give his living best to the job. And it was like, when he took over the job, we were at a pretty low ebb last year, and the turnaround was instant. Like, he got everybody invested. He got a few young lads in to try and bring them into the squad and get them going. And straight away we got a few good results under. So I'm looking forward to seeing Joe with his first full season. I know the lads were back training last week, last Friday night, or maybe within the last week anyway. So they're already preparations are already underway for a kind of a good run at the league. Hopefully, we need to get out of Division 4. That's the big problem for us is being in the bottom tier. We want to be playing better teams, and hopefully we can manage that in next year. Like we've had great success with county teams down the years, or sorry, with club teams down the years. Mount Leinster Rangers, our county champions in hurling, have contested an All Ireland club final. Éire Óg have contested All Ireland club finals. We've won provincial finals, a couple of different clubs. So the difficulty is we don't have many clubs. We're a small county. I think
Mm,
we've about five senior hurling clubs, There's 8 senior football clubs, so it's
Mm,
quantity is the problem for us. You know,
mm,
we have good players in both codes, but probably just not enough, and that's that's down to population more than anything else. Our hurlers have given
yeah, yeah, yeah.
great value to the county at Joe McDonough level and Christy Ring level, and but again, there's that that team is probably coming not quite yet, but shortly coming to the end of a cycle, and we need to bring more hurlers through as well. But
Mm,
we take great pride, we take great pride in our county teams. There's the club competition is fierce down here, and we the county board do a great job in getting out, teams at our own level. Look, we're in the Talton Cup, we're in the Joe McDonough Cup, and we compete well at that level, and just need to keep putting the effort in, and hopefully we can push through to a little bit of a higher standard at some stage.
mm. And obviously, the Tottenham Cup and Cavan would have competed in the Tottenham Cup in 2022 and 2023. Like, so we did find it beneficial. Probably could have won it,
Absolutely.
should have won in 2022. Obviously, you get against a very good Westmeath team, and I think Down
Yeah,
knocked us out in 2023. But the Tottenham Cup really does give
yeah,
your Carlos, your Offleys, your Wicklows a really good sporting chance, John.
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think it was badly wanted that, like, the success of hurling bringing in the tiered competitions, it made a huge difference to hurling, and I think football needs it. And I think they're just about getting it right at this stage. For the likes of ourselves, Carlo, like, to get a few uh, competitive championship matches with teams that we can realistically, beat on a given day. I've been to watch Carlo playing that great Dublin team back in 2018, and
Yeah.
going to the match, you can't win. Now they did a fantastic job in the day in keeping the score relatively low, but I mean
But
that's
what good is that? Yeah.
what good is that? Exactly. You want to be going out and winning a match, or trying to get to a semi-final or a final and stuff like that. So the Talton Cup
Mm.
is fantastic. It's providing that, and as you say, if the county can use it as a springboard, to bring it, gets a little bit of success, and success will, perpetuate success. You'll move on, and hopefully we can get a good run in the Talton Cup this year, or and maybe see if we can improve things along the way.
Because I know obviously at the start when it did kind of come in, like a lot of people were saying maybe like the promotion about it and why bring in the Tottenham Cup. I know there was maybe a few teething problems at the start, but it's making a lot of sense now, John.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think what people were very worried about, John, was that it would go the way of the Tommy Murphy Cup. I don't know if you remember that back in the early
Oh
2000s.
seven.
Yeah, and there was the clubs didn't buy, or the counties didn't buy in, and I know at one stage we were involved in a game that was a walkover in that Tommy Murphy Cup, Carlow were, and that's no good to anybody. But the way it's structured now, the way it's set up, people can see the value in it. They can see the value in competing well in it, and winning it, and getting back into your provincial championship the following year, back into the All Ireland championship the following year. So, I think it's structured pretty well, and it's given teams the opportunity to compete at the proper level. Even if teams, every team will go through a kind of a fallow period where they just don't have the players, or they're not competing at the top level. And I don't think there's any great shame in that. You drop down, you regroup, and you move back up. That happens in all sports across the world. So I think the GA have done a good job there in introducing the second tier in Gaelic football.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose, John, obviously to kind of finish up the GA cover, kind of any kind of closing remarks to the viewers and listeners about your new book.
No, like, what I will say about the book is, if you're not a big reader, you don't have to be a big reader to read the book. There's a lot of images in the book where you can just flick through it. You don't have to start at the beginning. You can start in the middle. You can start at the end and work backwards. And there's a little bit of history there. The history, it's not history heavy. Each year is covered. It's not necessarily the All Ireland finals or the hurling or the provincial finals. There might be a little bit about each year in it. So you can flick through it at your leisure. Leave it on the coffee table. Leave it on the kitchen table somewhere. You can pick it up and have a look through it. It's a nice book to get for Christmas or something like that. If you want to give it as a present to the GA fan in your life, or to the sports fan, or the history fan in your life, there's a little bit for everybody in there. And I think people will enjoy it if they get their hands on it.